We're rolling. Welcome to the REI Rookies Podcast, the Real Estate Investing Rookies Podcast, episode number 114, where we invite you to follow us on our journey towards financial freedom using the power of real estate. I'm Josh Coath, and Jack Haas is off performing a rare day of manual labor. He's going to be sore tomorrow. Here at REI Rookies, we believe in a couple of key principles. Number one, the best way to retain information is by teaching it to others. And number two, a rising tide lifts all boats. We're not competitors, we're a community. So let's get into some real estate investing. All right, everybody. Well, I told you Jack was off doing a day of manual labor today. That is true, but he did some work in the studio interviewing our guest on today's podcast, Khleif, who is a multifamily investor expert, has a very popular podcast, has boot camps, write books, and his focus is really on the multifamily space. So let's listen to Jack interview Khleif.
So thanks for joining us here today, Rod. It's always great to start things off by starting with your background and how it led to your multifamily investing.
Sure. No, I appreciate you having me on the show, Jack. I really appreciate it. Let's have some fun today. Well, let me go back because that probably will give some context to what I do now. So I immigrated to this country when I was 6 years old with my brother Albert and my mother Svancha. We ended up in Denver, Colorado, where I lived for 30 years. And we really didn't have much. In fact, I had to wear clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army through junior high school. And, my mom bought expired food, and we drank powdered milk because she thought milk was healthy, which we've discovered now it isn't. But but the point is, we didn't have a lot of money. Now, I know other people had it worse than we did, but I knew I wanted more. And my mom was a great example because she babysat kids. She had an incredible work ethic, and she babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat. And with her babysitting money, she actually bought the house across the street from us when I was 14 approximately, for approximately $30,000 with her babysitting money. But when I was 17, a couple years later, close to graduating from high school, she told me she'd made $20,000. It had gone up in value $20,000 while she slept. And I'm like, what? I'm getting into real estate. In fact, I didn't go to college. I went right into real estate. I got my real estate broker's license, which you could do then with education. Now you have to have experience. But I got right into brokers. Right when I turned 18, I was a broker. And I was going to be rich in real estate. And I got a bus bench and put my picture on it and my name and phone number on it, put it down to the end of the street. Of course, it didn't do a darn thing for my business, but made my mom proud. I made maybe $8,000 my first year in real estate. I maybe made $10,000 to $12,000 my second year. But my third year, I made over $100,000. So what happened between year 2 and year 3? And that's what I want to share with your listeners, Jack, is what happened was I met a guy that taught me about the importance of mindset and how really 80 to 90% of your success in anything is your mindset and your psychology. And, fast forward to today, I have actually spent 20 years following Tony Robbins around the planet, who's the king of mindset and psychology, best in the world at it. In fact, if you ever have a chance to see him live, just do it. Trust me on that. But, so, that's what happened between year 2 and year 3. And so fast forward to today, I've owned over 2,000 houses that I've rented long-term. I've owned multiple apartment complexes. And in 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. Just a little more than my mom's $20,000. Yeah. And, it's kind of funny. There's a punchline, because I thought I was a real estate god. You want to do the math on that. It's over $8,000 an hour, through the year. And I thought I could do no wrong in real estate. My head got so big, I could barely fit it through a door. And, whenever that happens, God or the universe or whatever you believe will give you a smackdown. Well, that was 2008 for me. I lost it all. And I lost a whole lot more. I ended up losing about $50 million. I call it a seminar. I don't call them failures, but I lost everything. And it was a $50 million seminar. And so, what I discovered though was I had 800 houses at the time, and I also had several apartment complexes. And unfortunately, I'd cross-collateralized everything together. If I hadn't, I'd still have the apartment complexes, because what was interesting was my houses didn't cash flow, but my apartments did. And there's some reasons for that. I know that you teach single family investing, and I don't want to discourage anybody from doing single family. The thing that I did that screwed it up was I had houses 2 hours one direction and 2 hours the other direction, and everywhere in between. Mm-hmm. And so logistically very difficult to manage. But when 2008 happened, well, let me back up. So Florida, where these houses were, I had 800 houses, and where they were, Florida has high property taxes because there's no state income tax. And a lot of these properties were in flood zones, wind zones. So I had to pay for the insurance, which was also heavily impacted my cash flow. But the big thing was the logistics. If I had a maintenance request at one of my apartment complexes, I'd send a maintenance guy. We could stockpile parts because everything's the same: plumbing parts, HVAC parts, appliance parts. And so they could get in and out, in most cases in an hour, hour and a half, something like that. Well, if I sent somebody to one of my houses to fix something, maybe they had to drive an hour to get there. So there's 2 hours of the day gone. Then they'd have to assess what it needed. Then they'd have to find a Lowe's or a Home Depot where we had an account, buy parts, come back. And you know how when you get parts, sometimes you dig into something. And because every house is different. I mean, all the plumbing's different. The electrical is different. The HVAC systems are different. The appliances are all different. Everything's different. So, you couldn't stockpile any parts. So, they get into it. They'd see they need something else. They'd have to go back to Home Depot or Lowe's. And what would take, an hour in an apartment complex ended up taking all day in a house. And you multiply that times 800. And then you factor in the fact that a lot of my residents were in the construction business and in retail, because I had C- houses. Mm-hmm. And that fell off a cliff in 2008. So, I had a lot of vacancy, a lot of people not paying, and it was just the perfect storm. So I crashed and burned. But what I'd like to share, if you'll humor me, Jack, is the mindset it took to come back from losing $50 million to the success that I enjoy today. Mm-hmm. And, I take my students in my live events through a kind of a goal setting, visualization, and manifestation process that I can do at a high level real quick with you here, if you'd like me to share it with your listeners.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, awesome. And by the way, on my live events, I do 3-day live events, and I'd love to offer your listeners $100 off just because they listen to your show. So if you guys are ever interested in seeing me speak live, go to multifamilybootcamp.com and just put in the code REI rookies, and we'll give you $100 off. I want to do that for your listeners, Jack, if you'll allow me. So REI rookies.
That's awesome. And guys, I really can't recommend this enough. Make sure you check out Rod on when it comes to this. Great offer there.
Thank you. So anyway, what I do, in fact, this is probably the first thing I do at my events, because if you don't know what it is you want, and as importantly, why you want it, you're never going to get it. So you've got to do goals, and I do it a little differently than most people do. So I can do it fairly quickly on the show here, but I'll give you a high level idea. So what you want to do is you want to write down everything you could ever possibly want in life, and you can't keep it in your head. If you're analytical, don't keep it in your head. Write it down and just start writing. Make sure, by the way, that you've got high energy. Pick an hour when you're uninterrupted. You're well hydrated. Don't do it right after a meal. You need a lot of energy. And I'm going to take a drink. So hang on one second. That reminded me I needed to be hydrated. So anyway, you're going to write down everything you could ever possibly want in life. Okay. I'm talking the big things, the little things, the houses, the boats, the cars, the jet skis, the planes, the motorcycles, whatever it is, the clothing, the jewelry, whatever it is, write it down. Everything, big, little, all the stuff. Write down all the stuff. And stuff is okay. It's okay to want stuff because it helps you share your stuff with the world. And so don't be limited, and don't feel like you don't deserve it. Or, if you've had, parents that have taught you to believe that money is evil, push through that stuff, because that's BS. Okay. And so, write down all the stuff, because life was meant to be enjoyed. Then write down maybe where you want to travel. Write down. I've got a travel vision board, for example, with all pictures of where I want to travel or places I've been I want to go to again. So write down the travel. Maybe things you want to do. Write down, things you want to do. Maybe write a book, or whatever it is, whatever things you want to do. Go ahead and write that down as well. And then when you and don't stop writing. If you can't think of something, if you can't think of another, thing, then move on to things you want to learn. But keep writing, and don't let the pen leave the paper, and don't analyze it. If you're analytical, just don't analyze it. You can always scratch it out later, but write down everything you could ever possibly, want to learn as well. Me, I want to learn how to fly a helicopter. I want to learn how to, play the drums. My wife bought me a drum set. I have a compound that I live in now, and one of the buildings, I've got a media center, and above there is a conference center, and I've got my drum set there. I don't even know what end of the sticks to use yet, but I'm going to learn how to play those darn drums because I love rhythm. And so, what do you want to learn? Write that down. Maybe you want to write a book, like I said. Maybe then also write down who you want to help. This is really important. So, I bought my parents a house and down here in Florida, bought them a car, took them on cruises. Who do you want to do something for? Write it down, okay? It's everything you want to do, be, or have. And then once you're done with that, the next step is to make it real, it's got to be measurable. So put a time limit on each goal. Put in how many years it's going to take you to achieve each goal next to it. So just write a little 1 or a 3 or a 5 or a 10 or even a 20. Remembering that as human beings, we will overestimate what we can accomplish in a year and massively underestimate what we can accomplish in a decade. So I'll give you an example. I always wanted to live on the beach, and there's no beach in Denver, and I knew that one day I was going to live on the beach. I thought about it, I visualized it literally for 20 years, and I ended up building this incredible mansion on the beach, 8,000 square feet. I had the beach on one side, I had my covered boathouses on the backside. It was called a Gulf to Bay. It was like a slice through an island, just a magnificent home, a waterfall from the second floor into the pool, and I'll talk about that more in just a minute. So realize that it's okay to have big goals. When you're doing those goals, take the lid off your brain and just imagine if you write it down, you're going to get it, because it's not outside the realm of reality. There's something in your brain called the reticular activating system, and it's that filter that filters out what it thinks is important to you. And so a great example of it in action is when you first buy a car. You don't really notice them as much before you buy the vehicle, but then once you buy it, you see them everywhere. Mm-hmm. And were they there before? Of course they were. You just didn't notice them. And so that's your reticular activating system. And that same principle works by writing down goals. So, but don't limit yourself. Again, the thought of me living in an $8 million house when I was 18, doing my goals the first time was unthinkable. But that starts the process. Okay. And so once you're done putting a time limit on each goal, then I want you to pick your number one goal. We just got a couple more steps here. Pick your number one goal. And I mean, that goal that if you got it would be like, oh my God, that's just amazing. That goal, pick that one. And if there's 2 or 3 of them, just pick one of them. It won't matter for what we're going to do next. So pick your number one juiciest goal. Then I want you to pick your top 3 one-year goals. Okay. So you're going to take 4 goals total, your number one goal and your top 3 one-year goals, and put them on a separate sheet of paper. Now, this is where most people stop. In fact, most people don't even get this far. And in fact, most people spend more time planning a birthday or Christmas than they do designing their lives. Okay. And it's just crazy. So that's what you're doing here, is designing your life. And so once you've got those 4 goals on a separate sheet of paper, I want you to take and write a sentence or 2, or even a paragraph under each goal, why it's an absolute must for you to achieve it. Mm-hmm. And words are very powerful. So you use emotionally charged words like incredible and amazing and successful, and, put things like, so I can show my children what success looks like. So I can, so we can go do whatever we want, whenever we want, go wherever we want, bring whoever we want, whatever it is for you, write it down. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so I can show my spouse, the life of her dreams or his dreams. So I can retire my spouse, or, whatever it is, write it down. And again, words are so powerful. Use powerful words. then once you've put down positive reasons why it's an absolute must for you to achieve each one of those goals, I want you to put some pain in there. Because as human beings, we will do more to avoid pain than gain pleasure. So use the pain. This is the fuel, my friends. This is a fuel to get you to take action on your dreams, to get you to make it happen. And so, to get you outside of comfort, to get uncomfortable, because that life that you want is just on the other side of comfort, to get you to push through any limiting beliefs that you have, any fears that you have, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of humiliation, whatever these, maybe you feel like your limiting belief is you're not old enough or smart enough or young enough or whatever it is. This is the fuel that pushes you through all that stuff. Now, so put some pain in there so that I don't feel like a failure. If you don't achieve the goal, so I don't feel like a failure, so I don't fail my children, so I don't fail my wife, so I don't live a life of regret. Make it painful. I know it sounds harsh, but I'm telling you, this stuff works because this is the driver. This is what's going to push you. Once you've put the positive and negative reasons why each one of those goals are an absolute must, and then there's one last step, and I know you talk about this as well, Jack, and that is you've got to get pictures of your goals, okay? You've got to get them. I've got vision boards now. And I didn't even know what it was that I was doing at the time. But let me share some examples of this because it's so powerful. When I was 18, I got a Ford 4-door Granada. I had to get a 4-door because I was a realtor and I was going to be showing houses, so I had to get a 4-door car. The ugliest freaking thing you've ever seen. But I had a friend that had a Corvette and he let me drive it. And that's a very important piece, is that experiential piece. If there's a car you want, go test drive it. If there's a type of house you want, go to an open house and check it out, experience it. Very important. But he let me drive it. And so I got a magazine and a picture out of a magazine, because this is before you could even spell internet. And I got a picture of a Corvette out of a magazine and I taped it to the visor of my 4-door Granada. And within a year or two, I had a beautiful red Corvette. Then I'll give you a couple more examples, but I want to tell your listeners, I want to pre-frame this by saying this is not me bragging, because the things I want to describe now don't even interest me anymore, but they're great for illustrative purposes. And if I didn't say that, you might think I was bragging, and I'm not. Even with the house, I'm not. Okay, but so this was back in time when they had the TV show Magnum PI. The actor was Tom Selleck, and it kind of dates me by bringing that up, but he drove this. He was this detective, and he drove this Ferrari 308, beautiful red Ferrari. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, that's incredible. And then I thought that was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. And I got a picture of that actual car and put it on the visor of my Corvette. Within a couple of years, I had a Maserati that looked just like it. Last example I want to share, another car example, is I'm the guy that always wanted a Lamborghini. I had the pictures, the posters of the Lamborghinis on my wall. Back then it was called the Lamborghini Countach. That was the type, and just, with the bikini girls and all of that. I had that. And what's interesting though is my son collected models of exotic cars. He was 9 years old, and he had models of Ferraris and other types of exotic cars, Corvettes, and he had a model of the exact same color and style Lamborghini that I ended up getting, which I wrecked ultimately. But anyway, the point is, pictures work, my friends. And I didn't realize how big a deal this was until the movie The Secret came out, and the guy John Assaraf on The Secret talked about vision boards and how he got what he wanted with his vision boards, and that kind of cemented what I'd been doing, not realizing what I was doing. And at my live events, I show my planner. I hold it up, and I've got pictures in the back of this thing that have been in here for 20 years. And the first pictures are my gratitude pictures, okay? Pictures of my children when they were young, things I'm grateful for, because everything starts from a place of gratitude. But then after that, there's the houses that I wanted. What's crazy is the house on the beach. The first picture here looks just like the view that I had from the house on the beach. Now I live in this compound, which is amazing. It's 6 buildings. It's right on the 6 buildings, right on the water. I've got a beautiful 2-bedroom guest house on the water, an incredible main house. I've got a media building with a theater room and a hand-carved bar and a conference center above it. And I mean, it's like this park. It's really zen. And because God's got a sense of humor, I can see my old house across the bay that I lost in 2008 when it all crashed and burned. But But anyway, I've got pictures in here of the things that I've wanted. And what's crazy, I mean, I've got the pictures of the Lamborghini before I ever got it. A couple $100,000. I've got a ton of watches, very expensive watches, stupid shit that I thought was important. The Rolls Royce, all this stuff that I got because I had pictures. And so don't underestimate that as well. Get pictures of what you want, get vision boards, put them around you, and you'll get what you want. I mean, I know some of you analytical guys are probably going, oh, this is too foofy for me. And I'm here to tell you, be making a mistake. I like to give the examples. One is Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey, the actor, wrote himself a check for $10 million when he was flat broke and put on there for services rendered. Put it in his wallet, and he'd look at it regularly. And that's how much he got for Dumb and Dumber. Roy Disney, another great example. When Epcot Center was built, Walt Disney had already passed away. And Roy Disney was at the grand opening, and a reporter came up to Roy and said, it's a shame that Walt didn't get to see this. And Roy looked at him and said, the only reason you're seeing this is because Walt saw this. So anything you put in your mind and visualize, that's how you bring it into reality. In fact, Olympic athletes, it's now standard practice. The Russians started this, but it's now standard practice. They all visualize their races as if they're doing them because it improves their performance drastically. So visualization is very, very effective. You need to utilize it. I think, okay, I've got one more thing I want to share on the goal setting. And that is, I told you about that house on the beach that I built. I built this 10,000 square foot, 3-story house. I mean, just magnificent house, incredible. And this testament to my ego really is what it was. It was to show the world I was good enough. It was to prove to the world that I was good enough. That's why I built this thing, this ridiculously sized house. And about 2 months after I built it, I'm floating in the pool at night. My family at the time is inside. I divorced my wife back then, but my wife at the time and my kids, my beautiful kids, were in there sleeping, and I'm in the pool. And it's changing colors at night. It had fiber optic lighting, waterfall from the second floor into the pool, waterfall from the spa into the pool. I've got like $30,000 worth of trees that branch out over the pool. I'm just magnificent. And I'm floating there, and I got depressed. This is 2 months after I built it. And I mean, I got really depressed. And I'm like, what the hell? I just achieved this incredible success by societal standards, and I'm depressed. And when I look back on it, I've realized, Jack, there were two things going on. One was you should never achieve a big goal without having other goals lined up behind it. Like the good book says, without a vision, the people perish. You need to have a vision for the future. So make sure that you continually are adding to your goals and to push you and pull you and propel you to take action. But there was another thing that was even bigger going on. Remember, I told you I was totally focused on me, totally focused on Rod. Prove to the world I'm good enough. Rod. Me. And I went and I bought some books when all this, when I was getting depressed, and I bought some books that speak to this, but like Zig Ziglar, Tom Hopkins, Dale Carnegie, things like that. And one of them was Tony Robbins' book. And I mentioned I spent 20 years following him around the planet. Well, I went and saw, the book blew me away, so I went and saw him live. And again, if you ever had that opportunity, just do it. I get nothing for telling you that. Just do it. Trust me. But he feeds families for the holidays. And I'm like, that's cool. Remember, I'd been totally focused on me. And I'm like, wow, actually help other people? What a concept. And I came home and I called my brother and I said, let's feed some families. So we fed 5 families. And this was for Thanksgiving. We wanted to give them a nice holiday meal. And so we bought frozen turkeys. We got baskets of food. And we called a church and found families that needed help. We said, who really needs help? And so we got these 5 families. And the third family changed my life. We walk up to this door, and this lady lived in this 1-bedroom shack. It was like a row house. I don't know if you've ever seen these, Jack. It's like you walk into the living room, you walk through the bedroom to get to the kitchen, which has the bathroom off of it. And there's 3 or 4 of these in a row. It's just a crappy row house, I call them. But this lady lived there in this 1-bedroom with 5 kids. So she comes out, she sees the food, she starts crying. her kids come out, several of them start crying. I start crying, and I'm freaking hooked. And so the next year I did 50 families. Year after that, 100. Year after that, 200, 400, 800, 1,600. And I paid for it. And the 1,600 was '07, right before the crash. Now I've got this foundation, and we take donations. But I am blessed to say I've now fed over 65,000 children for the holidays. We've done over 10,000 backpacks filled with school supplies to give to local children here in the Sarasota, Manatee County, Bradenton area. You know, just astounding to me that kids in this country don't have the basic necessities they need for school. So we've done, I think, probably close to 15,000 of those. You know, over 10,000 backpacks for the local police departments, for their officers to keep in their vehicles when they encounter a child that's been traumatized. And I'm not telling you this to brag. I'm just here to tell you that there's a big difference between success and fulfillment. I was successful, but I was unfulfilled. Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. And, you know, and that work, this work that I've done in the community here has given me so much joy and added a richness to my life that is immeasurable. And I'm here to tell you, those of you listening to Jack's show, I know that you want financial success, but I'm here to tell you financial success without that piece is not success. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I invite you to give back in some fashion. You don't have to do anything as grandiose as I just said, but you must do something to give back. And so I'll just leave you with that. And I will tell you, I've interviewed people on my podcast. I've got a podcast called the Lifetime Cash Flow Podcast. I hope you'll check it out. You know, we're approaching 6 million downloads. Just one of my biggest blessings to add value to people. And I've interviewed people on the show that are hugely successful, mega millionaires, and I could tell they're right where I was, totally focused on success, but not fulfilled. And so don't be that person, my friends. You know, you've got to have both in your life. So I'll drop the mic now, Jack, because I kind of ran on there.
Well, you know, and I didn't want to interrupt. I mean, you just had me completely locked in. So I can't suggest this enough. If you found any value in what Rod said over the last 30 minutes, I mean, definitely check out his live event. I can't even imagine the amount of worthwhile content you must have, because in
Thank you.
30 minutes, that was unbelievable. That was awesome.
It's a passion project for me because, you know, so many people go to a live event or buy a course, and you know, the sad reality is 90% don't do anything with it. Mm-hmm. Well, not on my watch, brother. I mean, I have exercises where we push through fear, where we push through comfort. We identify what our ideal life looks like. We identify our identity. And use all of these things to propel us to get uncomfortable, to get, you know, because you got to get up early. You got to stay up late. You got to work this thing and have the energy to work this thing with a core job. I mean, I've got students that are retiring from their W-2 jobs because they've replaced their income, but they did it on the side with families, with kids, and all of that takes energy and takes drive. But listen, I want to share a couple of things with your listeners. One is I've got a free book. It's 200 pages, like a textbook. And they can get that by texting the word ROD to 41411. If, you know, the book is about to go on Amazon, and if it does, then we'll send you some other incredible content. I've got probably the best due diligence checklist in the business for doing the due diligence on a property. We'll give you that if the book is off the list there, but definitely text ROD to 41411 and we'll give you some incredible content. The other thing is I've got a Facebook community. If anyone's interested in this multifamily space, go to multifamilycommunity.com, and it's a direct link to that Facebook group. And we just literally today hit 26,000 people. So, you know, I know, Jack, you talk about the 5 people you hang around with. You need to be around people that want more, and this is a great place to find people like that. So I hope you'll check that out. Love to see you at one of my events. That's multifamilybootcamp.com. You know, if you go to my website, I've got a ton of free content there, videos and articles and other books and things that I've written. It's all free, and that's rodkhleif.com, KHLEIF.com. Anyway, thanks for this opportunity to speak to your listeners, brother, and it's been a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, and I hope to maybe you'll see me at one of your events in the near future.
Absolutely would love that, my friend.
So I really appreciate it. And thank you so much, Rod.
My pleasure, buddy.
All right, everybody, that was Jack's interview with Rod Khleif, multifamily investing expert. And we've put a lot of effort into providing useful content. And if you found value in the show, we'd love to have some support from you on Patreon. So head over to patreon.com/REIRookies if you'd like to make a small donation. If you have any thoughts or questions, shoot us an email at info@REIRookies.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at REIRookies. And if you like what you're hearing, head over to iTunes, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It really helps other rookie investors out there find the show. And remember, get off the bench and get into the game. We'll see you next time. This episode is brought to you by FargoTurnkey.com. Do you live in a good cash flowing market? If so, Turnkey isn't the best choice for you. You should buy in your market. If you don't live in a great market for investors, where can you find profitable cash flowing properties? We love the Midwest, where prices are reasonable and the people are great. Ever heard of North Dakota Nice or see the movie Fargo? That's where we live. We personally invest here and have lived here all of our lives. How does Turnkey work? We find the property, we rehab the property, we find you a tenant and place you under the care of our local property manager, who we trust with all our own investment properties. I'm sure you have questions about how the process works and what to do next. If that's the case, fill out the form on FargoTurnkey.com and we'll reach out to see if you are a good fit for our business. We have a limited supply of properties every month, so we can sell only to a few qualified buyers. See you at FargoTurnkey.com.
I don't like to tell a man what to do with his money, but if you ain't investing in property, then you're dumber than a dummy.
I'm not dumb. I'm smart.
Well, buy property. That's my advice.